It's getting crazy out there. We have this report from timcast.com. FBI investigating suspicious white powder sent to Kari Lake's office. Officials say no one was injured, but staffer who opened the envelope is under precautionary medical supervision. Civil war. How about that? I don't know everything. I don't even know a whole lot relative to any expert on the American Civil War. But I've been saying for some time that I feel like we're on that path, and I still do. But we don't know what it would look like. We don't know if it'll be a fifth generational information war. I've been saying that for some time. Bill Maher recently came out and said it's going to be like Insurgency. You're going to see attacks like on Paul Pelosi, which is kind of ridiculous considering the fact that the attack on Paul Pelosi doesn't appear to be, based on the information we have now, the story is so broken, I don't think in any way it's political. They're trying to make it seem like the Paul Pelosi attack was a guy looking for Nancy and he's a QAnon guy. And then you get into it and you're like, look, we don't really know exactly what happened, but this does not seem like a political thing. I mean, it might be in the sense that a crazy guy did a crazy thing and he thinks political things, but I don't think it has anything to do with anyone of sound mind saying politics is the reason for this. What I mean is with like white powder being sent to Kari Lake's office, that's overtly political. That was a planned out move. Someone did this for tactical reasons. They wanted to terrorize. Their motivation, political. Why else would you target Kari Lake? Whereas with like the Paul Pelosi thing, it's like, for all we know, a crazy guy broke into his house. Now, to be fair, sure, a crazy person who believes crazy things may have sent a letter, but that is targeted and planned out. You see, you understand the difference I'm getting at here? I do think it's possible that we get into, in this nation, a civil war. But I wonder if it actually could be some time from now. Maybe it'll start sooner rather than later because of the speed at which information travels. It's also entirely possible that it could take 20 years before it actually breaks off. I mean, we're looking at this split between the left and the right, or whatever you want to call it. But we're only just starting to see the geographical polarization. So first, let's do this. Let's talk about the FBI and what this white powder is all about being sent to Kari Lake's office. They're scared. She's winning. She's going to win. And when she does, what do you think's going to happen when she starts digging into the paperwork as to what Arizona had been doing only a few years ago? I think it's possible that some people are really, really scared. Before we get started, my friends, head over to losingmymind.com or go to iTunes and purchase our new song, Genocide. On Friday, we launched this new song, which directly takes aim at the establishment, the media, the liars, the deceivers. And we've hit 565,000 views, a little bit more than that because this is the public-facing views. 74,000 thumbs up. And within 8 hours, we displaced Taylor Swift on iTunes. Now, throughout Friday and Saturday, we were number one on iTunes. It was amazing. But come Sunday, we've dropped down quite a bit. We are number one on Amazon, number one Amazon bestseller in music. That's amazing. That's really, really cool. Seriously, thank you guys so much for supporting our work. We want to impact culture. We want to make sure that these the journalists, the media have no choice but to recognize they don't control the machine and the narrative anymore. So our video explicitly mocks the establishment press, and they're probably not going to be happy with it. So if you want to support us and make it undeniable, purchase the song on iTunes or any other platform. We're already doing really well. I think this song is going to do better across the board than Only Ever Wanted did. Our first song actually, I think it did better in terms of views on YouTube. But with your support, go to losingmymind.com, support the song. We're going to keep building culture. And when it comes to this, here's the goal. We're going to make a bunch of songs. We're going to keep releasing them until we have a big library of music. That's just about it. And then we're going to keep doing more. We're going to make more shows. Of course, the songs that I've produced, like the second most successful thing we've done at timcast.com, but we do have a bunch of other awesome shows that we're going to be that we're expanding and putting together. So with your support, we will continually impact culture and make more. The FBI is investigating suspicious white powder sent to Kari Lake's office. A staffer for Arizona gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake opened an envelope containing white powder, prompting the closure of Lake's office 2 days before the midterm elections. You see, that's my point. That was strategic. That was of sound mind. A crazy guy may be in his underwear breaking into someone's home in the middle of the night. Not strategic. Nancy wasn't even there. This guy didn't plan anything. He's just crazy. This was intentional. CNN reported on October 6, Colton Duncan, for Kari Lake spokesman, said 2 envelopes were confiscated by law enforcement and were sent to the FBI headquarters at Quantico for examination. Later that evening, Lake told reporters apparently there's a closer lab than Quantico, and that's where they actually sent the substance, so we're going to find out what it was. I bet it's going to turn out to be like baby powder or something nonsensical, or something immaterial. Officers responded to a found property call in an office building near 40th Street and Camelback Road. When officers arrived, they learned there were suspicious items located inside the mail. Additional resources responded to collect the items and secure the area. There have been no reports of injury. Phoenix police and fire departments told reporters that no one was injured. The campaign staffer who opened the envelope is under medical supervision as a precaution. Kari Lake is running against Katie Hobbs. You know, there was it's just getting dirty. We'll put it that way. This is getting really, really dirty. The suspicious package arrival comes 2 weeks after the Phoenix campaign office of Hobbs was burglarized. Hobbs responded to the news of the suspicious package at Lake's office with a concern and denunciation of the violence. She tried blaming Kari Lake for it. And Kari Lake brushed it off. I mean, it's ridiculous. I am not going to blame Katie Hobbs because a lunatic sent white powder to Kari Lake. I'm going to blame Katie Hobbs for bad policy. And if she loses, it's her fault. But come on. Katie Hobbs, no one in mainstream politics. Okay, I take that back. At the high level in these races, there may be lying, there may be deception, whatever. But there's not advocacy for violence against the other person. Like Katie Hobbs, I would not bet any money that she went to someone and told them to do this. Or in any way, it's not her responsibility. She's simply running on politics. Now, I will say, don't lie. That's something you can avoid doing. And as we look at the polls, we can see exactly why something like this is happening. Shut down their campaign office 2 days before they need to use it, before they really need to use it. Kari Lake took the lead around October 8th. So actually, October 12th, sorry. On the 11th. Okay, on the 11th, Kari Lake took the lead in the 538 aggregate polling. They're freaking out. They're absolutely freaking out. The red wave is coming, my friends. And I'm going to bring it up again in the next segment, but I have to say, at 12:02 Pacific time, when the continental United States is all within the time span of November 8th, there will be a full blood moon eclipse. I'm just going to say it again, because come on, is that not ominous? Man, that's crazy. And the next one won't be until 2025. So I wonder, are we going to experience around 2 years of some kind of very serious conflict? Is this the opening sign? The dark days are coming and they won't close until 2025. From The Guardian, these are conditions ripe for political violence. How close is the U.S. to civil war? Yes, this is Barbara F. Walter. Judges will be assassinated. Democrats will be jailed on bogus charges. Black churches and synagogues bombed. American political scientist and author of How Civil War Starts and How to Stop Them. It's remarkable. I mean, that's insane. None of that's happened. In fact, what's happened is conservatives have been jailed on bogus charges. Black churches have been attacked, but it turns out those were hoaxes. And the judges currently being targeted right now, the Supreme Court justices, it's the far left doing it. And see, that's why you look at someone like Barbara F. Walter. She's not a moron. She knows what she's doing. These people want power. They're the aristocracy. They do not like that the rebel has been speaking up and speaking out. So they will do whatever they can to rally those blind and stupid enough to follow them with things like this. It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. Is it Civil War o'clock, said, a Trump supporter? Get ready for an uprising. Lindsey Graham, a Republican senator from South Carolina, said there would be riots in the streets if Trump was indicted. Sure. I've been doing a bit more research. I've been doing a lot of research on the Civil War, and I will issue a correction. I was talking, so there's this talking point that goes around quite a bit, that the reason slavery ended was because of technology, that with industrialization, it became cheaper to maintain machinery than it did to actually pay for slaves. And then all of a sudden, you had just no desire for it. And I've done a bit of research. That's actually not true. It's a talking point I see quite a bit, actually not from the left, but from, moderate intellectual types. And they argue that in Europe and things like that, it may be true in certain circumstances, especially with, especially maybe well later on after the Civil War, but with, mechanization and industrialization, but certainly not by the time of the Civil War. In fact, I learned an interesting fact. The cotton gin was seemingly this great technical revolution actually increased the demand for slavery. So certain new technologies were coming out. And as they needed more and more raw materials for the machines they were building, you didn't have the machines to pick the cotton. People had to do it. So this actually increased slavery. But I brought that up because it was an interesting fact, and I was wrong about it in the past. And I want to make sure, I'm not a historian, but Civil War. What I did learn is that as I've been reading a bit more and listening to more documentary stuff, it's really interesting. There's just endless amounts of information about what happened at that time. It's crazy. And because it spans, the entirety from the American Revolution until the point of the Civil War. They were talking about Civil War for a while. In the 1820s, there was talk of Civil War, and it didn't happen until 1861. Now, here's the interesting thing. I think about something like that, and I wonder if, right now we're seeing all the stuff going like, oh boy, there could be a Civil War. And it's true, but it won't be for like a decade or two because you need more geographic polarization. As cities go nuts and, Democrats lock things down, conservatives flee, we are getting more and more geographic polarization. But there's a big difference, a very, very big difference between now and then as to why I think it may happen faster than anyone realizes. The issue is information. It was remarkable, some of the stuff that I was watching, small stories of skirmishes. I watched a documentary about the Albemarle? I think it was, the ironclad, man. Ironclad ships, seemingly invincible to the wooden cannon, to the cannon fire of the wooden vessels, and it would just tear through them. But anyway, I've learned a lot of interesting things about how Civil War was bubbling up, and many people were concerned it was going to happen. But the information being the principal issue here was that there's like one guy who had to sail all the way around South America to try and bring artillery to the Western United States because of the war with Mexico. And by the time he got there, the war was over. It's like fighting stopped. There were people on the West Coast who didn't even know the U.S. declared war on Mexico and the Mexican-American War for months. It's like you're hanging out with a dude from Mexico and he's trading with you. And then it's like, oh, did you realize we're at war? Crap. Today, we have the rapid, instant information transmission. And that means it's going to move quick. If, John Brown, when he did what he did at Harper's Ferry, he raided the armory. He was trying to ignite a slave rebellion, and it didn't work. And the mistake he made was that he allowed a train to leave Harper's Ferry. They brought word of what happened to the federal forces, who then came in and shut down the insurrection, as it were. And this is John Brown's raid. This is well before the Civil War, I believe, decently before, a few years, I think. I could be wrong about that. The interesting thing is, if someone did something like that today, imagine if right now some like abortion abolitionist took over an armory in some state in an effort to get people to rise up and stop abortion. We would all know about it the instant it happened. Whether or not a trainer, someone in the building would be like texting before it happened. They'd be like, there's a crazy guy outside with guns. And then it happened. They're going to be like, yo, this is happening. That's the crazy thing. Kari Lake had white powder sent to her office. That's terrorism. It's only getting worse. We had that crazy guy send those fake pipe bombs. Apparently that guy was a Trump supporter. It's only getting worse. Are America's fears overblown? Barbara F. Walter. If a second civil war breaks out in the U.S., it will be a guerrilla war fought by multiple small militias spread around the country. Their targets will be civilians, maybe mainly minority groups, opposition leaders, and federal employees. Full stop. Absolutely insane to think that. Minority groups? Why? What does that have to do with anything at issue right now? Are the Republicans or the principal right faction in any way concerned? No. They're actually making grounds, winning voters from the Latino and black communities. You see, this is designed to scare you, to get you into an ideological box. So you think the only thing you can do is fight for truth and justice, and this is it, because they're racist. Judges? Right now, it's the left. Okay, well, hold on. If she's saying that it's the left that would attack minorities, I'd believe it. If she's saying that opposition leaders and federal employees, I absolutely believe it. Judges will be assassinated. Well, we just saw that one guy try to kill Kavanaugh and his family. Democrats and moderate Republicans will be jailed on bogus charges. Okay, well, now I gotta stop. Democrats and Republicans, because if you're talking about the far left, they're gonna go after everybody. But what is this? Black churches, this is insane. Pedestrians picked off by snipers in the streets, and federal agents threatened with death should they enforce federal law. The goal will be to reduce the strength of the federal government and those who support it. This lady is either insane or very evil. The goal with this is to make you so terrified of what might happen. She said, we know this because far-right groups such as the Proud Boys have told us how they plan to execute a civil war. That's strange. The former chair of the Proud Boys was a black guy. But don't let that get in the way of your narrative. They call this type of war leaderless resistance and are influenced by a plan from the Turner Diaries, a fictitious account of a future civil war written by William Pierce, a Nazi. You see where they're going with this. Blah, 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 blah. They say the U.S. is not yet in a civil war. But a 2012 declassified report by the CIA on insurgencies outlines the signs. According to the report, a country is experiencing an open insurgency when sustained violence by increasing activist extremists has become the norm. Oh, Antifa? Okay. That's it. We're in insurgency. Civil strife. It's the far left. I don't see far right people going around doing anything. They don't either, but they're so insane they think it is. Oh, they got their one moment on January 6th when these morons started fighting with cops. Don't get me wrong. But Antifa's been out there violent for a decade plus. So yeah, we must be here. In this early stage of civil war, extremists are trying to force the population to choose sides, in part by demonstrating to citizens that the government cannot keep them safe or provide basic necessities. Is that literally what the left is doing? The goal is to incite a broader civil war by denigrating the state and growing support for violent measures. Insurgency experts wondered whether January 6th would be the beginning of such a sustained series of attacks. No, I thought it was the 5/29 insurrection, when far leftists tore down the barricades of the White House, set fire to a guard post, set fire to St. John's Church, forced the president into a bunker, and injured 150 law enforcement officers. But they don't talk about that one, do they? The FBI has arrested more than 700, blah, 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 blah. We also know who tends to start civil wars, especially those who fought between different ethnic, religious, and racial groups. This also does not bode well for the U.S. The groups that tend to resort to violence are not the poorest groups. It's the groups that had once been politically dominant but is losing power. It's the loss of political status. It's strange. Let's take a look at the American Civil War. The group that had been politically dominant and losing power. No, the South was never politically dominant and did not have that much power. I mean, they had power, don't get me wrong. But the North was industrialized and wealthy. They had, at the Battle of Gettysburg, the North had breech-loading rifled muskets. I don't even call them muskets. They're breech-loading rifles. They had cartridges. The South, one of the reasons that they lost was that they did not. They had muzzle-loading rifled muskets. It's crazy. For the North, with the industrial base and wealth, they had substantially more people, substantially more weapons, and they even had international support. They had a navy. They blockaded the South. The South did not have that power. Now, I suppose they could argue, but it was the white majority that was fighting for, in the South to maintain white supremacy. The North was mostly white, too, and they were extremely racist. There were more white, powerful individuals in the North than there were in the South. That's just it. That's just reality. Now, don't get me wrong. Slavery was dying out. They were trying to maintain it. Certain changes bolstered slavery in the 1820s and pushed it into up to the point of the Civil War. But in the North, they were wealthy. So they had these, the breech-loading gun means it's like, you ever see the shotguns that like Elmer Fudd uses? The front breaks down and you put the rounds in the back. They had paper cartridges with the bullet in the front, the powder in the back. And what they would do is they would break it open. They would push it in the back, close it, put a percussion cap, and then crank it back and fire so they could load super quick. Bang, crack, put it in, cap, boom, bang. The rifled muskets, they had the percussion caps, but they had to put the powder and the wadding and the round in it, stuff it in, and then take aim. Anyway, I digress. The North, they had more power. But this is it. They say today, the Republican Party and its base of white Christian voters are losing their dominant position, except the Democrats are the ones gaining white voters. The Republicans are gaining Latino and black voters. It's remarkable how they lie, isn't it? They need this. They need this. So that when it comes to a war, you think, as you hear these things, that you're the good guy fighting the evil Nazis, when in reality, you are the Nazi, fighting alongside a growing base of white upper-class individuals who don't want to lose power, but they know how deeply unpopular that idea is. So they have to lie. It's why they push critical race theory, and it's why they're Democrats. The oldest party in the country, the Democrats, the party of slavery. Quite literally the party today lying to you. We'll see how this plays out. We've got a lot more news to go through. So I'll leave it there. I don't want to go off on a tirade about the things I just learned about the Civil War. Next segment's coming up at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.